The Cruise of the Pintail is a 16mm movie made with a hand-cranked Kodak camera, which needed to be turned at 33 revolutions per second to give you natural motion. The film begins with a newspaper article telling of their departure and the route that they will travel. Once they have reached Market City, they launch the Pintail into the bayou. They're on their way to get provisions and are cleaning the deck and cleaning the boat after their long trip. Now they're calling all the ropes and preparing to dock so that they'll be able to do a little tour around Market City. Bonneville's at the helm, bringing us to dock, and Bob standing up on the front ready to tie them up. Bob is tying them down now, and Orrin has just jumped off. Here comes Bonneville, and now they're in town and fixing to go check their mail at the post office. See if Mom or Daddy sent them some money. They're Bob and Orrin reading the letters from their parents. Bonneville filming, of course, and now they're returning back to the Pintail, loading it up at the dock with gasoline, and now preparing to get underway to begin their great adventure, the Cruise of the Pintail. You will notice in the film, you will see a lot of spider web-like things on the surface of the film, and that is because the film is originally nitrate film and it's over 50 years old, and that's the shape it's got into before we were able to preserve it by putting it to DVDs. Now they've just passed a swing bridge that's opened, and they're able to go through, of course, with their mast up, no problem. Various oyster boats and shrimp boats are tied up along the bayou in Morgan City. This is the Intercoastal Canal heading towards New Orleans. Now we're coming to a bridge that they have to lower the mast in order to get underneath the bridge. And that they've cleared it, Bob's raising it back up. And on the way, we're able to see many fine plantation homes along the bank, plus many deserted, haunted houses and old mansions that are lonely and deserted looking. We have also a lot of still pictures that Bonneville was able to take of these structures. It appears that's a sugar mill, probably around New Iberia. And now, after passing that, we see much Spanish moss and various other structures. Water hyacinths dot the Intercoastal Canalway quite a bit, which later becomes quite a problem in the smaller bayous that they take when returning. You see a whole bunch of water hyacinths there as now they pass a swing bridge. This is a floating bridge. It swings open to allow them to pass. The sticks that you see there are actually channel markers in the Intercoastal Canal. You don't know exactly where the channel is, so there won't be much of a chance of you going around. Now they're able to take a little repast there and have some lunch or dinner, which seems to be very pleasing to them. Back underway, Bonneville is filming, and Bob and Orrin are just playing around. For 3 days, the Pintail had plied along lurid waterways through somber swamps and waving marsh to emerge in the late afternoon upon the broad waters of the farther Mississippi before us stretched New Orleans, the Crescent City. The waters were a little rough due to the fact that it's a big body of water and we got ships on it that are giving up some nice weight. So went through the Harvey Canal, and now we've got to cross the Mississippi. There's a big steamer coming along behind us, but we finally made it to dock, and we got out, and now we're on Canal Street, filming, and you can see the cars and the dress of the people back in 1931. I mean, it definitely can see the styles. Now we're back into the French quarters in various areas there, and you can see the balconies and style there. And even though Dad did mention it in his diary, that the storyboard was there, which was the bordellos of the place. There's no real mention of them there. Now they have gotten into some courtyards here, and these are probably courtyards of the two sisters or something similar that they're filming in. But they kind of like to want to get a little bit of the inside and get some of the scenes that they couldn't get just walking down the street. Bob and Orrin they're going in the door, walking through, going on in through the gates into this courtyard and sightseeing. Orrin seems to be the one that likes to pipe smoke the most. I don't think any of the other guys smoked. Now, I don't know what street that is, but kind of looks like Royal. But here's some children, probably over near the French market, and they're all posing. The parents are trying to get them together to pose so they finally can get a good picture. Now we're at Lafitte's blacksmith shop there. So he's hitting a lot of the little tourist stops as he goes along. The type of camera Dad has sets on a tripod, is hand cranked, so it's not like the ones you can carry around. I didn't know Lafitte had a cell there, but I'm sure he does. And she apparently was kept captive there. This is near the Cabildo and Jackson Square. There's Andrew Jackson on his horse there. And of course we got the standard bums that like to lay around and sleep late. And at St. Louis Cathedral. And we still near the French market, coming across the snowball stand. And this is the way they made the snowballs in those days. Didn't use a regular cone, but a little cardboard plate to put the ice on. And you're going to soon see that many of the natives around there carry their produce to the market on their head. And also the streets are shared by both. There we go. There's some carrying a big load on the head. And later you're going to see people carrying on their head with, and those are some garlic things. Really great for keeping vampires away. Like I said, the highway is, the road rather, is shared with animal carts and automobiles. No longer do you see the animal-drawn carts in the French market anymore. They're long gone now. But look at the size of that cantaloupe. And how about that? their stuff is balanced on their head. Now here's a ferry boat crossing, and now they're sitting there with some planktons. They're the fruits from their search, and I think they sleep on that pier at night instead of on the boat. They were able to rig up some hammocks up there. And one of the books Dad read was Lyle Saxton's Lafitte the Pirate. The pirates are gone from Barataria Bay, and fishermen have taken their place. Sharks are their prey instead of the Spanish galleons, but the spirit of adventure still lingers. Harris Dixon. But the book that I just mentioned by Lyle Saxton was the reason Dad left New Orleans and headed toward Grand Isle. They wanted to see where Lafitte the Pirate and his descendants were. And they're on Barataria Bay area now. The waters are kind of rough. They don't necessarily make it a straight run. I think they stop off at some islands along the way. I think this probably is a Manila Bay here, where they imported a lot of Filipinos in to help with the shrimp drying industry there. So they stayed there before they hit there and several other little islands in the bay before they were able to get to Grand Isle. Now they're finally probably at Grand Isle at dusk, settling in there. And look at their turtles. That's probably Tony Christovich holding a bunch of turtles. And Cajuns will eat anything. Turtles make really good soup, and they have real good meat in them. But here's a pet stork, that the kids just keep around, and it seems to be relatively tamed. That's Tony Christovich there. He's actually toning for oysters. He's showing Dad how they gather oysters. They do it a little bit more modern these days. They no longer use the toning method. They tow these big giant conveyor belt rakes behind them, bringing the oysters up. But then they brought them up with the rakes, and they culled them and got them ready for market, washed off all the mud. And there's Tony's camp on Bayou Giro, that's south of Morgan City. And they're washing off all the oyster shells to get all that mud in preparation of packing them. They're loading the baskets up with the cleaned oysters from the boat that was used to collect them. And they're fixing to pack them now. And they pack them, and they have a cylinder in there that's surrounded with ice. So they take that cylinder and they put all kind of crushed ice all around that cylinder, between the wooden barrel and the side of that cylinder. As you can see him doing it now. And now I think he's going to close off the cylinder. A few extra oysters, put that on in. Load it with some more ice, cap the whole thing off. Now, put it in the hole. Now the boat is a speedboat, which now can quickly take it within a couple hours. It will be in Morgan City, and from that point on, they will be distributed in New Orleans, Morgan City, or whatever here. This is one of the lighthouse islands around. I don't know, it might be Eugene Island, out in the Gulf. Dad stopped by there and visited with the lightkeeper and was invited, he and his crew, in for coffee. So they docked the boat there at the little island and went inside to have coffee and meet with the family there. There's a pintail. They use a sail as a sunshade, to block when they're at dock, so that they don't have it. Here is a towboat bringing an entire load of oyster shells, some of which are used to reseed the beds on the oyster reefs. Now they're under sail there, and pintail could only sail before the wind, and it means it went in the same direction as the wind was blowing. It couldn't tack or anything of that sort, but it did help save on gas, and as long as the wind was blowing them where they wanted to go, they'd put their sail up and let the sail take them. Those are oyster boats out there. The long flat ones are oyster boats. They don't pull nets like shrimp boats do. That's another lighthouse there. Now, Pintail got on the lighthouse to make a picture of the boat, movie of the boat, rather, from the lighthouse as it passed by. Closest you could get to an aerial or using a drone, which you do now. So he just did some splicing and he filmed from both directions. So now we're headed back to Morgan City through the back byways. We're not staying on the Intercoastal Canal. So some of these back byways you actually hit are smaller, and you got to fight your way through these water hyacinths. You just have to chop them, and work pretty hard to get through them. And it's a slow ordeal. Finally, they broke through into some open water. The swimming suits that they wear are quite unusual. They've got the tops on them. Now they're getting into the jungle, and probably around Avoca Island. These are where first Tarzan movies were made. They're cutting a palmetto there to kind of use that as a fan to help cool them down, But they wanted to kind of simulate a few little Tarzan movies. You see, there's Tarzan up in the trees. Oh yeah, look, there he is swinging. Now, they never did find Jane, but that's how it is in the Louisiana swamps. Some rather wild-looking swamps and desolate areas there. But now we're coming up on Grand Lake ahead, and right there at the outlet is a little Cajun village. There's no way to get to it except by boat. And these people made their living not only on the sale of crabs and fish and all the seafood there, but they gathered moss. Moss was used for packing of mattresses and furniture back in those days. Since they've been replaced. But Pintail tied up at their village, and they were treated well. That's Papa and his little kids, and he needs a little dental work. But Dad says that these people were really happy and content, and they never felt they were missing out on anything. They didn't have any electricity, of course, but they got their chickens, and they got pigs and raccoons, and they got their pets and their dogs, and so and then they've got their little pirogues and boats. So they've got all the entertainment and everything they need, and everything they want, And I believe it was in this area that Dad was able to capture his alligators to bring back. That these people showed him how they went out at night and captured the alligators. Now there's where they're throwing moss. They climb up in the trees and they throw that moss down and load that pirogue up with the moss, and they bring it back to the camp to dry it. They hang it out and let it dry in the sun. And the moss, when you first take it off, is green, but then it turns black like that. And you pack it up into bundles. And after it's packed into bundles, then you can sell it to the moss factory, I guess, and they load it up, take it off their barge, put it in their truck, and truck it to the various factories that use it. They're sitting there shucking a lot of oysters. It's going to be oyster stew tonight, or fried oysters or something. But you see, they just, these guys don't want for anything. Now, the pirogue is a rather unusual shallow bottom boat, and not one that you can use very readily. If you sit in it wrong, it will not stay afloat at all. Now, here these little guys know what they're doing, and they're standing up in the pirogue. Well, no novice would do that, but they're just natural to this type of boat. And I used to own one, and I almost took it back because I could not keep it afloat. It would just keep rolling over, and you're going to see in a second here that they let a couple of the crew members of the boat. Here they go. They're going to try their hand at using the pirogue. They don't have any experience in it, and so you're going to see what happens. Now, you notice Bob's on the front, and he was sitting on the seat that gave him a high center of gravity, and that's the big thing that's wrong. You've got to just forget the seats. The seats are only there to hold the top of the pirogue part. You've got to sit in the very bottom of the boat itself to stabilize it and lower that center of gravity. Now, of course, they hunt alligators at night, but you can't film at night. So they're kind of showing Pintail here how they go about hunting alligators in the daytime as they look for it. But they got one guy that'll paddle in back, and the other one will sit up front with a light on, and they spot the alligator in the water, and they can tell how long the alligator is by how far apart the eyes are. So if they're like an inch and a half apart, they know they've got about a 3-foot alligator. And if you got one that's 6 inches apart, then you don't fool with it. If they're so far apart, what they do then is they shoot it and then capture it. Now they're giving their Cajun friends a little tour on the Pintail, showing them what the area around there looks like with the little powerboat cruise. Finally, Bob and Orrin have learned how to use the pirogue, and they got to the point where they would, especially in that area, they would always tow it behind them, which made it easy for them to get into the jungle and walk around. I don't know what time of year it is, but I suspect it's probably a cooler time, and they're not having any mosquito problems since they're walking around without shirts. But one of the things they did do for the mosquitoes, they learned quick on that all of citronella kept the mosquitoes away, so they would rub themselves down with that, and the mosquitoes won't touch you. Now we're back out in the very harsh water hyacinths, trying to fight our way through them. Beautiful flowers, and they're not native to Louisiana. They were originally brought from France and put into a pond in New Orleans, and the pond quickly got overflowed with these water hyacinths, and the owner threw them in the Mississippi River. Well, that was it. About a year or so after that, they were all over the state. They grow quite fast and have caused quite a bit of hazard and problems for navigation in Louisiana bayous. Especially back then. Our journey is slowly coming to an end now as we're approaching back towards Morgan City. And we will trailer the Pintail and start our long trek back to Fort Worth and discuss our memories of our journey along our way. Thank you for viewing this film. We bid you adieu.